Mhm. All right. Whoops. Let me move the mic over close to me. Let me switch over the view. 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 All right. Doing some work, working on tables. Tables, tables, tables. I think I'm going to go with a D66. Keeping my theme. I don't know if this is overly ambitious. I might switch it up for some. Whoops. Why do I keep doing that? 5, 6. This is inside the Joy of Hex Maps, which shall be getting some updates at the end of the month. Free for the month of January. Gonna be probably $4 or $5 post January, as in February. That would be February. And I think, I don't know. I suppose this probably happens with other things where the pricing, not that I really want to have it be that particular price point, but as I have discovered on drive through, if you want to participate in certain things like deals of the day, you got to have a minimum price. You got to have a minimum price for your product. And wanting to probably, I mean, I suppose I suppose you could do something to have a low price, hit it up to the deal the day minimum, and then slam it in there. That might be a thing that one could do. I don't know, but I just like to think that I don't know. I'm sure they have a good. Well, should I say I don't know if I would. Maybe I can't assume anything. However, I'd like to think they have a good reason for. I mean, I'm sure they did some kind of mathiness in there. So these are places. Basically, I'm just giving places. I'm trying to figure out. So one of the things that my thought process is this: there are places and there are locales. A locale might be on a butte, on a mesa, on the plateau of a mesa by a butte, or in a sandy desert. That's the locale. Then the place is what's actually there. Could be nothing. You could have like, yeah, you're by the butte, you're in the shit, or whatever, right? It could be just, yep, you're out there in on the plateau and there's nothing there. But if you wanted to generate a location where something's happening, then maybe you say, oh, okay, well, at the butte or by the whatever. So that's kind of what this place is. So these are going to be the most generic because I think that these places should pretty much be able to go with any terrain. They're not terrain specific, whereas locales are more terrain specific. So in arid areas, badlands and barrens and deserts, we're going to have things like dunes maybe and rocky whatever, rocky plains or sandy plains or something like that. You'll have those kind of things. But for the places, at least my intention at the moment, and who knows how things will evolve. But at the moment, it's just to have just to give you a list. And 66 is more than I would normally have. I've said this before. I'm on the record as saying you don't generally need this much. I don't think, but I am publishing this out. I am putting this out there. So I feel like for this purposes, but we'll see if it ends up being more like because a D66 gives us 36, right? 2d6 rolled using 1/6 is the heads. 1/6 is the tens die, and 1/6 as the ones die. You end up with 36 possibilities. And in using this D66 configuration as opposed to 2d6 and summing them, is you get 36 36 fields as opposed to 12, and it's a flat probability. The chance of rolling an 11 is the same as rolling a 12 or a 13 or a 62 or a 45. Right? All right. So place, so we could have a and the other, oftentimes I also think people love this people love this stuff. There's people always clamoring for these kinds of tables. and things. I think often though, if you really want to do it, and this is why I advocate for using smaller table numbers, is smaller table sizes. Is this is a good way to bring in whatever your world building is. If you're in a certain region that you're talking up, you want strange elves, whatever, slee stacks, but they're elves. Maybe they're just slee stacks. Then you want to pepper your locations. You want it with, or you want to use places that reflect slee stack activity, if that's kind of what's happened here. Or you're in Land of the Lost, and now you're in the slee stack territory, and you're rolling around for what's happening when you meet what was the name? Enoch. Then you want slee stack stuff. If you're running some other kind of game, other setting, then you want stuff from that area to come through. But again, I know people love this stuff, and so I'm just gonna give a just a generic, I mean, obviously it's gonna have that sort of implied setting, which is gonna I'm gonna move these around a bit. Already I'm moving things around. Cyclopean stones atop. Cyclopean? No, cyclopean is a word, isn't it? Pretty sure it is. Are you going to tell me now, dictionary, that it is not a word? Hey, Terrence, the location of the misplaced could be. The two P's? No, cyclopean. Very big or huge. Yeah. Yep. I got it right. I got it right. Standing stone, just a rock, standing stone, a circle of cyclopean. I know this is where my French, not my French, in Asterix, they would talk about menhirs, which were these. Oh, it is a real thing. Well, look at that. Excellent. All right, I'm going to use a, I want to give some. Okay, so menhir, a large stone set upright in olden times. Great. Excellent. Oh, yeah, megalithic. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Oh, you can even get a list if you want. I don't need the list. I just wanted to reinforce the fact that I knew what I was talking about. Anything going on with you, Terrence? What's going on in the world of your game live streams, your gaming streams? I have not watched anybody's or really any live streams in I mean, actual plays, I guess I should say, in a long while. I'm horribly behind in all things. They're difficult for me. I can't, man, I cannot. It's really hard for me to fathom how the critters, the Critical Role fans, really they're so into it, and the shows are so long, and I just would, I don't know. I feel like I'd be lost. I'd be lost even if I was just watching or listening to the backlog, which I've tried now and again. I can't. I just have a really hard time with it. Just not getting just lost and keeping track of everybody and what they're doing. All right, so we got the circle. So I'm just doing kind of rocky sort of things in this part. I'm thinking I'm going to try to either explicitly or maybe implicitly trying to kind of like these are kind of rock things. Terrence says we're doing about the same friggin' crickets. Are you Terrence? Do you do what's your main? So you should definitely let me see. I might not let you throw a link to your channel, Terrence's channel, Terrence his channel, their channel. But let me see if I can. Like I just gotta get my act together and find something. Um, but is your Terrence is your main thing YouTube, or do you guys mostly are you Twitch and then kind of repost to YouTube? Tell me now, or forever hold your peace. All right, let me see where I can find. There you are. All right, let me link this in the channel. I know your name, Terrence. I'm just trying to find the. All right. Homebrew detritus. Oh, YouTube. Okay. YouTube channel. Ugh. Chanel is what I had written. Channel. Bam. Whoops. I think I goofed that up. I think I added. Let me hold on. Let me do it again. All right. Yep. Homebrew. Travis. YouTube. Or maybe I don't know why do I need to write YouTube. I'm on YouTube, and I'm only on YouTube right now. So there we go. I shall pin that to the top. Boo. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious with the I like Critical Role is kind of a special case. I feel like it seems to me, and Terrence, though, I would obviously submit to you. You know much more about it than I am. It seems to me that a lot of those the live stream folks are no. Why do I keep saying live stream? I'm doing a live stream. Actual plays, but I could just be misinformed. I always felt like the actual plays, most of them, and I know it's an awkward word. I seem to use Twitch and then post kind of the replay stuff to YouTube as opposed to doing live on YouTube. I don't know if that's changed. I know that YouTube has changed things and whatever, and people make their choices. It just always seemed to me like, isn't that Critical Role? I think Critical Role's on their own. Don't they have their own? I think they have their whole own platform now, and I guess I don't know if they simulcast or post later to YouTube or whatnot. But I don't know. Whenever I see the actual play stuff, well, I guess I just don't see that much of it. I always think that they're kind of Twitch focused, but I don't know. I'm just blathering on about. I don't know anything about anything. I know the live stream game on YouTube is tough. Let me tell you, it ain't easy being cheesy on the tubes. Okay, an outcropping weathered rock, a massive menhir standing stone, a circle of cyclopean stones atop a flat mound. What other kind of rocky kind of things? What other things are there? I don't want to put, so I was going to start typing in ruins. I don't know if I want ruins. I'm going to do that. Okay, so let's leave some space. It says full disclosure, I don't watch actual plays either. I mean, look, how many can you watch? That's just to me, that's a whole other thing, right? How many, I could see, well, I could see watching one. But how can you? I mean, it's. I think the thing is too I follow TV shows. Obviously, watch too much TV. Probably things like Severance is back. Really recommend Severance season 1 if you haven't seen it on Apple TV Plus, and now season 2 is out. And watch the first episode of that and kind of get it. But I think the thing is with the actual plays, it's the mixing of the story, right? The fiction that's going on, plus the mechanical stuff that's going on, plus the banter. So it's not that you get to concentrate wholly on the story because they're not telling the story I mean, imagine watching your favorite TV show and then something about to happen, and then they got to stop and roll dice and then do that, and ha ha ha. And then they start joking a little bit and take a swig of water. Somebody else cracks a joke from off camera, and then they cut right back to the ha ha, and then they kind of keep going, and then you're doing that for hours and hours on end, and with I think bigger casts of characters. Sometimes when I watch those recaps of Critical Role, not necessarily in each episode, but just over a whole I don't, I don't know, campaign or whatever season, whatever they're calling it now. I mean, there's a ton of different characters to keep you track of, and folks do these recappers. I mean, obviously they're kind of doing it as their job, but recappers coming in and recapping the heck out of it. But man, just as a kind of, I mean, that's I guess the thing is, I would be a casual listener, and I don't feel like I can, or watcher, participant. It's just too much. And the thing is, it hits that spot where it's more than I can really background listen to, because like if I'm only catching snippets, then I really can't make sense of it. And because you don't even know what you're getting. Is it banter? Is it mechanics? Is it, I don't know. And then I don't find it compelling enough to want to sit and watch. So the times I'll usually end up checking out an actual play is if there's a system that I'm curious about, like Shadow Dark or Trophy Gold is another one. And what was the other one I was looking for? Oh, what's the other recently that I'm sort of into, at least intrigued by? I forget the name of it, but those where I really want to see the example of play, and kind of in those situations, the mechanics is what I want. I want to see the mechanics. I want to, whatever the banter. It's great if you're inside baseball and you're part of the community and you get it. But as someone coming new to it, often it's like I don't really want it, because I don't, sometimes people are you're funny to your friends, but you're not funny to someone just walking by your conversation. And that's how I feel a lot of it is. Like, yeah, this is great or funny or interesting if you're a friend of theirs, which obviously if you're a regular to one of these streams, you are. But for coming on the outside, like I don't care, don't know, not funny. Terrence says it feels like being held in class during recess, watching other people do something you'd rather be doing yourself. Yeah, I think there is part of it. Yeah, there definitely is part of it. I because I would love to, it's the one, I'll say this, the one, shoot, what's his I don't think they have a YouTube channel, but I know some people who have been on there, or on there now, their Call of Cthulhu. Let me find it. It's called hold on a minute. It's called Grizzly Peaks. I got that right. Uh, Grizzly Peaks Radio. I don't think they have a YouTube channel. Daniel, aka Bandits Keep, has been on there. A couple other people from the home game actually have been on there. Let me see if they have a Grizzly Peaks Radio. Sounds like maybe they do. Oh yeah. No, it's Grizzly Hills. No, maybe they don't. Wait a minute. Grizzly Peaks Pictures. He started one, but it looks like. So here's what Grizzly Peaks. They're pretty darn good. Well, okay, I guess the thing is with Grizzly Peaks, it's a podcast only. It's not streamed. Obviously, when they're playing, they stream, but then it's pretty. Whoops, get this cord off of there. Pretty heavily edited. Here we go. I'll put in a link. Pretty heavily edited with sound effects and gosh, I mean, yeah, sound effects and sometimes voice modulations, or doing vocal effects, so that if there's a scene where what do they call the I don't know what they call the GM, the referee in Call of Cthulhu. I don't know, it's what the Crypt Keeper, or I don't know, the Keeper maybe, is in a scene where they're calling one of the characters on the phone. I think when they're playing the game, there's no sound effect, but when you're listening to the podcast, they'll add that old timey kind of telephone effect to the voice. And if somebody bumps into a dog, they'll add in the sound effect of a dog, and they've got music, and it's really, really well done. And the mechanics are still there. And I've never sat through and listened to a raw episode. I've never seen the raw files. I have no idea what it is like when they're actually playing it, but the mechanics are still there, but they're minimized or they do them in a very compact way where it doesn't feel like it's taking me out. And plus, I think just the nature of the stories. I don't know. I just it's or maybe it's just the fact that it's a podcast, or I guess probably the fact that it's heavily edited helps keep it to where it's mostly focused, or I can keep track of it better. Hey, Ian. The one thing with Grizzly Peaks that is not really any way around it, it's just the way they do it, is he's got the referee does a bunch of, I don't know how many games he's got running at the moment that they're recording, and then they kind of just release them as they go. So you'll get, if I look on my, let me see, if I go to the Grizzly Peaks, I think I've listened to them. I'm pretty much caught up. Yeah, I have. So, but you'll end up finding, that there's one campaign called the Two-Headed Serpent, another campaign called the Silver Twilight Lodge, and right now those two are active. Or they're, I don't know how many he's got, but those two are ones that are active at the moment, and so you'll see episodes, just one and the other, and the one and the other, and I know I could wait till the end or do something like that, but I wish you would put them out almost as a big chunk, just so I get, okay, here's the whole thing. I get it. You'd have to change up how you produce it and stuff. It's not it's not efficient from a content standpoint, but I would like it. But it's really good, really, really good stuff. And that's probably the one actual play that, or I guess two, because I'm kind of listening to both of them. Then again, too, for whatever reason, those stick better with me than the ones that I'm watching. Because, like I said, I think it's because it's edited better. I think it's just less, less noise, less whatever. And maybe it's Call of Cthulhu, and the fact that the checks and the mechanics are pretty simple. There's not a lot of complexity, even in combat. There's not, I guess maybe that's from a not participating, just from I guess an observing, as an observer, using a game that's got monolithic resolution, right? Everything's D100. Everything kind of works the same. Everything, whatever, whether you're in combat or not, you're making a different sort of check. And yeah, they can do some kind of check against you, but it all kind of works the same. I think might be an aid for me as an observer, as opposed to fifth edition D&D, where things can get, and not even in a bad way. I mean, if I'm playing a game and, I like the tactical combat in fourth edition, it got to be too much for me after a while. But, it was fun and you're into it and you're doing all the stuff, but it's also super complicated. And there's a lot going into it, so that the mechanics element can really take over parts of the game for large stretches before you get back to the story. And I feel like with Call of Cthulhu, maybe they don't so much, because it's pretty darn simple. Okay, you're going to do this check. Great. We roll this check, and then, you push, or you can use luck, and then you're kind of moving on. You're sort of back into the fiction. Uh, and I'm not saying one is the better than the other. I have very little experience playing D100 Call of Cthulhu. I think I've played Call of Cthulhu one time, just a starter. So I'm not saying it's better or worse overall as a system, but just as an observer, someone who's just kind of watching, or really at this point listening to it, I think maybe the fact that the mechanics don't take up a lot of time and bandwidth on during the actual play is a boon. I would think about that if I were going to do an actual play series. That would probably enter into my thinking, whether it's right or not, just because of what I like and dislike listening to. I'd want to do something similar. But of course, I'd probably do some kind of OSR or NSR type game, which is not going to be mechanically complex anyway, so it probably wouldn't make a difference. Taryn says, I'm very excited to start doing our Mega Dungeon campaign in the most dungeon crawling unfriendly system around, Pathfinder 2. Well, I think we talked about, did we talk about this on the Discord? I do think that you can add your whatever dungeon crawl stuff. I think you can kind of add on top of it whatever pretty easily, because there's this gap in essence. And I remember looking at it, because I think maybe it was on the Discord, and I was like, well, let me see what they have. What does Pathfinder 2 have? And it's very kind of loosey goosey, just sort of do what you want. But it doesn't take much. I mean, because that's the thing, the dungeoneering aspects, it's not like they're complicated. That's kind of the thing I find interesting, is you take the dungeoneering aspects from like BX, and there's only a few things. There's only right? It's okay. 10 minutes. You know, a dungeoneering is 10 minutes a turn, right? Okay, so 10-minute turns. Um, some rules about being things chasing you or being chased. And you're the things about doing actions you're replacing with you're going to use Pathfinder 2 stuff. So you're opening doors or searching or whatever. It's basically going to do Pathfinder 2 stuff. It's really about, okay, this is how much time it takes to do a task. This is how often we're rolling for wandering creatures. And if you want to add something in there like about running away from intelligent creatures and being able to throw a treasure behind you, or food, or just playing that by ear, right? Nothing. I mean, that's kind of it. It's just like, okay, you're gonna roll. We have wandering creatures. We're establishing that dangerous place. Things are running around. You might run into them, and I guess also the keeping track of light, right? A torch lasts 6 turns. Each turn is 10 minutes long, and if you want to add in you have to rest after 5 turns kind of thing. But that's it. I mean, it's like you could write on a tiny little note card. You could put on a Post-it note and slap it into your Pathfinder book. And I don't think it's going to really conflict with anything, because I think, like, my recollection, Terrence, you can correct me, was that they were kind of playing it loose and just kind of playing like, oh, just kind of go in this mode or that mode, and kind of, whatever floats your boat, sailor kind of thing. So you just add that little bit of structure in there, and that's kind of it. Now, I don't know in terms of the material what kind of dungeons you're going to find if you're running a Pathfinder dungeon crawl as opposed to your own dungeon crawl, or your own dungeon. If you'd have to make modifications because they're not, like DCC, for example, does not have wandering creatures in their dungeons, because I think that they really, all of their rooms, all the encounters they have in there, they're ratcheting the tension to 11. So I think they feel that that's you're already at a razor's edge when you're coming into these various things, that you don't need something else to push you even further over, because we're not having big empty kind of spaces. We're just kind of going to be wandering around. We're going to be really sort of intense, and because we're being intense, adding wandering creatures would kind of, it would sort of ruin the structure of this intense situation. So we're not going to have them. So you don't find them in something like Sailors of the Starless Sea. So if you wanted to add them in, you'd have to add them in, and maybe you'd want to tweak how some of the stuff in that module works. I have no idea for Pathfinder 2 modules, obviously, but if you're taking something that's an OSR module anyway, your Stone Hells, your Ardent Vools, your whatever, then uh, you know, then you're already going to have that stuff probably built in. Let's see, Krister. Hey, Krister says, currently GMing Pathfinder 2. What's dungeon crawling unfriendly about it? Aha, here we go. Pathfinder 2 fight. And then Terrence answers, it seems to want everyone to be at full power at the beginning of every combat, plus light isn't really an issue. Yeah, let me see if I can, Terrence, Krister or Terrence, let me see if I can find because they do, I remember being a little bit shocked. I don't know. What is the best, not character creation, rules or game mastery? Okay. All right, let me pull this out. I don't know if this is actually the best version. This might just end up being the Pathfinder 2 stream, which is quite okay. So we got, see, this is the thing, shoot, there's that other game that's fairly new that has this too. His Majesty the Worm, I think, goes into a lot of detail on all these different conditions and things that I find it really interesting. I'll probably have to read that on stream at some point, most likely on the main channel if I do, or maybe read some highlights or something. It's got all these conditions, and I kind of always think like, and I know we're talking about these are actions, and I guess there's another activities here. We're not. Oh, so they have exploration. Yeah. So. Okay. So I think the thing is in terms of dungeon crawling is they have. So you notice here we have exploration, and let's just assume I'm not going to even assume whether it's wilderness or dungeon. So they talk about exploration activities, which is in player core page 438, which is very cool. You've got affix a talisman. And these are interesting because they're also a little bit I don't know whatever I forget the name of Pathfinder 2's setting, but you've got, affix a talisman. You spend 10 minutes affixing a talisman on an item using a toolkit. Okay. I guess a talisman does something for you, but that's great. And these are in alphabetical, so they're not in order of importance. So that's something you could do. You can avoid notice. You're basically trying to sneak around. You can borrow an arcane spell, and that's just trying to prepare a spell from a spell book that is not your own. That's fine. You can call a companion. This would be an animal companion, I guess. You can. Okay, they have it twice. Oh, because it's all right. So I guess it's this is really a reference. So it's if the same action or activity comes up in different books, we're getting it twice. So call companion is in the advanced player's guide and the player's core too, which means that we get it twice. I'm looking at the archives of Nethys, which someone can tell me if that's the best online resource. So we have coerce, that's fine. You're basically trying to influence somebody, compose a missive. See, these are things that really, but here's the thing, right? Okay, compose missive. You spend 10 minutes drawing, writing, or inscribing, covering the missive surface with text, images, or embossing. Great. Like, why do I need that? This is one of those things that, okay, um, this is great. I can compose a missive, but why does this need to be an official action as opposed to like, yeah, I'm doing something, and depending on how big the thing is, I guess there's rules for what a missive is since it's linking me somewhere. What is a missive? A missive is a piece of magical. Okay, so it is a magical stationary thing. But even then, if it wasn't, it's like, okay, well, it just takes 10 minutes, right? We don't like was my thing with His Majesty the Worm a little bit. Like, we don't need, or I don't need all these. And I'm kind of wondering in His Majesty the Worm's case of who are these for? Because His Majesty the Worm does not seem to me to be a game that is for the beginner types who might benefit from having these different conditions spelled out for them. If I'm giving my daughter a game and she's played a little bit role playing games with me. She played with me at Page, the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo last week, and we've done a one-on-one kind of thing. And if she was playing game and she really needed something that was going to be kind of the encyclopedia gamica of all these things, and yeah, having a bunch of those terms might be useful so that she might be learning some of these for the first time. If I told my daughter, "Hey, drop prone," she wouldn't know what that meant. She doesn't really, prone. She might not even know what the word prone means or what it means in that context. So that might be useful. But for a game that's probably being distributed to and it's kind of audience of people who are already have understandings of things, then throwing me, 80 conditions that you're stunned, you can't move. It's like, yeah, I know what stunned means. You tell me my character's stunned, I'm gonna be like, okay, maybe I'll ask, well, does he fall over or is he on his feet? Something like that, right? Does that knock over? But I'm stunned. I get it. I don't need that. You are prone. I know what prone. I know what prone means. Maybe I ask him on my back or on my stomach, but that's it. And if I asked that, if I was playing a game and I asked that at the jam, they would probably roll a die. Which one do you want? Roll high or low and pick the one you want and see what you get. Don't need, don't need it. Christopher says everything is very formalized and structured in Pathfinder 2. Totally. Well, I get it more for Pathfinder 2, both because of where it's coming from and kind of where it's trying to be. Because Pathfinder 2 is in competition with being that board game, the not board game, the role playing game for everybody like D&D is. They're in that D&D space of, hey, we kind of want to be the game for everybody for everything. And so we're going to be at least trying to be in the targets, in the just sort of the bookstores and kind of next to D&D in that space. And so we're trying to get folks to play, hopefully look in our book and buy it and play it, who have no understanding of the stuff or idea or just never even thought about it before. So I kind of get it. It's, I don't think it's not really something I'm jonesing to play. And a lot of it's because of all that specificity that I'd rather be a little bit loose at this, but I get it. Something like His Majesty the Worm, I get it less because that's not really the crowd. So why a bunch of folks who are on itch and on Discord and all these things and all these OSR spaces who've heard of it, reading the blogs, whatever, they're the last people who need the huge list of conditions, unless you're going doing something kind of really crazy gonzo off the wall with it. Kind of unnecessary. All right, but let's just keep looking here. So we're at Pathfinder 2. We're looking for, here are things you can do. And okay, you can defend somebody. All right, great. You're moving at half your speed, and you got your shield raised. Okay, great. Following an expert. All right, gathering information. All right, hustling. Yeah, that's great. Identifying alchemy, identifying magic. Okay, those to me make sense as if you presumably have rules about them or something that makes sense. Impersonate. All right, investigate. Yeah, we got that. Learn a spell. There's nothing really in here that's dungeon really or wilderness focused at all. Follow a guide. All right. I need a that needs to be an action. Follow that needs to be a specific follow the expert. Okay. All right. Yeah. Sure. Sure. I mean, you know. In any case, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot here for actual specific dungeon stuff. But like I said, I think it's not does not feel like it would be difficult to just throw it in because at its core, you just got you're adding in the structure of the turns. I mean, even though they have it, some of these things they'll say you're spending 10 minutes, so that's just your turn. Some of these things have time on them, I think. So, why do this is kind of funny. Squeeze. Yeah, you squeeze through this needs to be a specific action to squeeze. I guess here they're telling you that how well you do is squeeze through the tight space in 1 minute per 10 feet. Squeeze through in 1 minute per 5 feet, you become stuck. I mean, that's great, I guess. I know there's a certain school of thought, and it's not wrong on the player empowerment thing. That if I'm looking at that, I get it, right? You're in a situation. You're the player. You're confronted with this thing, and it's like, well, the you're in a cave or something, and the cave narrows and narrows and narrows, and it looks like you can. It looks like you see the little bit of daylight, or you see daylight on the other side, but it's going to be a squeeze if you want to get through. And I understand the point of view of saying, but I want to know as the player, what does that mean? If I'm going to make the choice to attempt the squeeze or not, what does attempting the squeeze mean? And I get it. Now, do you need to have an action that's been typed up and put on page 233 of the player core to do that? I mean, we see that the player core goes up to over, I think it's 439 pages. So you got a whole lot of stuff. Do we need that as opposed to just a general rule that, like, well, you can roll for something and get a crit success, crit failure kind of thing? Or just having like, oh, if you crit success, you're going to make it, whatever. It could a GM just say, like, well, roll some dice. If you do really well, you're going to get through in a couple minutes. If you do okay, you'll get through in double. It'll take you twice as long, and otherwise you get stuck, kind of thing. Sure, but some players, I think, do enjoy that very specific, knowledge. I get it. It's not for me. And gosh, it's how many of those do you have? How big does that bloat all your books? Because you got to have 500 pages, and half of it are this kind of minutia and specifics that are very specific, very, um, very. What's the word I'm looking for? Um, Situational. That you're going to spend a lot of time never touching squeeze, and then do you even remember it's there? The time comes when you actually have to do a squeeze check. Do you even? I mean, when do you even remember that squeezing is a thing? I don't know. Terrence says, I feel like Pathfinder 2 is the apotheosis of a type of gaming style that needs a rule for almost everything, no matter how mindless it seems. I think it's definitely right. That's the kind of following on the third edition. I mean, it's where the game was heading. You could see it from the white box to Holmes to AD&D, and then certainly going on. Yeah, that we're going to define everything, and then third edition took that and kind of organized it and sort of obviously, Pathfinder extended it, Pathfinder 1, but third edition 3.0, they really they were that peak of, yeah, we are you're getting a rule for every little thing, which again I think is comforting to some folks, but to other folks it's of which, and I think when I was younger I was less averse to that. I'm not sure what happens. Maybe our brains get old. I don't know, but I was definitely less averse to the let's have a rule for everything and for everything being a rule than I am now. And Terrence says, not being critical, just describing the animal. I get it. No, I'm there with you. I don't think that's being critical. I don't. If someone's going to argue with me about that, where's my? What did I just do with that page? Did I get rid of it? If someone's going to argue, no, I think it's over here. I mean, you can tell me it's great or whatever, but I don't think you can argue that you have more things here than you probably are going to need. And the reason why you have all those, instead of just having a thing saying, hey, here are some generic rules. And I'm sure they still have that text somewhere, because even this doesn't cover everything. I'm sure there's something about how do you do just a generic check, but that's just the way they want to do it. All right, I need some more stuff here. I have done nothing. Well, I haven't done nothing, but I haven't done a lot. Haven't done enough. Okay, so let's see. An outcropping of weathered rock, a massive menhir, a circle of cyclopean stone. Let's see. What's the shadow shrouded mouth? Shadow shrouded mouth of I don't know. I'd like to say something more than that, but so we got a cave. So we got an outcropping with a rock, a massive menhir, a circle of cyclopean stones, a shadow shrouded. I suppose we could have. Oh, my cat Betty is here. Oh, I'll just keep that. A rough hewn stone altar. So now we're going to leave stones behind for the moment. Outcropping with a rock, a massive menhir, a circle of cyclopean stones, a shroud. I guess I should use a. Should probably take out the articles anyway. I'm going to do this. A yawning mouth of a shadow shrouded cave, a rough hewn stone altar, a and an abandoned campsite. Let's see. I guess, it's hard, not hard, but you always end up in situations where I can say I half buried, but then I also have to imagine, well, what if you're, what if you're, what if you're in a situation where it's buried into what? If you're on a stone plateau. Krister says Pathfinder does have a lot of rules, which has both ups and downs. Krister, your opinion, what are the ups of having the lots of rules? And I presume, and maybe that website is really good at organizing it, because I think the one thing with having lots of rules is, yes, there's that comfort of having it, but only if you can find it. So now I imagine with the digital tools, and hopefully, especially if I don't know if that's an official site or if they just use it, or it's obviously well known that they can make those tools really easy to get to. Because having rules for stuff isn't a horrible thing, but I think to a lot of the maybe the classic people who play the game classically remember, especially in those games like third edition 3.5, where you could end up having to sit for more than a couple minutes trying to look up the rule you need. All right, so we have an abandoned campsite, let's see, what's the sun bleached corpse? I know there's another word for that. Not for that. Krista, you like it? Oh, wait a minute. I missed the top. Okay, so Krista says, ups, structure. I like structure. I like having a rule system for building influence with people and organizations, for example. I like little rule systems like that. Downs, hard to let players improvise actions where there's a feat that a PC doesn't have specifically for that. Yeah, that's kind of like an extension of the thief problem, right? Well, if the thieves have this, like, what can I do? Can I not do it anymore? Or can I, right? Wait, what? What can I do? Can I can't sneak because the thief sneaks. So yeah, that's hard, especially sometimes when the thing they're trying to do does not seem like it's out of bounds, but it is kind of out of bounds because the feat's not there. Oh, Crown and Skull was the other game I was referring to a little while back, and Crown and Skull kind of can have that issue where because your inventory is your health, all this stuff, you can end up in a situation where you have the two hands. You're in a situation to pick up a sword, but you can't pick up the sword because you lost the sword, your sword, through damage. So you can't regain the ability to arm yourself with a sword until you rest. Even though it's like, well, I'm not dead. My arms are not broken. Why can't I pick up the sword? And you just have to, at some point, you just got to go, that's the game. That's the game. That's how the game, the gaminess part of the game is exactly that. You just got to kind of roll with it. I think you have to kind of do that same thing with feats, but it can be kind of frustrating, obviously, as a player if you get something like I'm in the perfect position to do X, but X, they decided X is a feat, and I don't have that feat, so now X is unavailable to me. Christopher says, and Pathfinder has lots of feats. There's little left for PCs to improvise, at least competently. Yeah, and I'm wondering, Krister, do you not want to just bolt on? So for things like the having different rule systems for different things, like the OSR vibe is just, well, take one you like and bolt it onto your game, whatever you like, whatever game you like playing. Oh, so if I need stronghold rules and my game doesn't have stronghold rules, I can take stronghold rules from whatever game and throw it in there. Does that not appeal to you? Do you find it too complex? Do you like the fact that it's, I guess, something is built for the system from the ground up, presumably works for you. That appeals to. Well, we got a lot of appeals. And we got, all right. So let's see. I got sun bleached corpse, a recent kill site. What might this? I'll add something more to that later. What else could I have? Because I'm now kind of working at. Let's see. A pool. Pool of dark water. I'm throwing things in different areas. I might do water stuff there. Gnarled tree. Maybe I'll put tree stuff, vegetable stuff there. Christian says, let's see. The problem with the OSR games, which I barely dare to mention here, Krister, come on. I'm not a cruel man. Is that I, as a player, want to have a character sheet with lots of abilities, buttons that I can press. What I like about OSR isn't the games themselves, but the style of campaign, sandbox, hex crawl, reaction rolls. I got you. I mean, yes, that is very much. You're not going to find a bunch of folks who are pro OSR that want to give you the buttons thing. Now, obviously, the counter or the OSR response to that is that folks would say that you don't need, that the world is your button kind of thing. Like what so I or you don't need to have. We don't want you to use buttons because we want you to be we want you to be interacting with the world and not your sheet, right? That would be kind of the classic response to that. Hey, I want to work buttons. Like, no. The world's your buttons. You want to know what happens when you do X, then just do X, and we'll figure it out. Now, obviously, I think from the player standpoint, you don't that comfort again of knowing kind of, well, if I press that, like, what have I got? And if I have a skill, press press button, then, or like squeeze. All right, well, I kind of know my chances. I know how good I am at squeezing. Therefore, I can make that kind of decision. Um, but Krista, from your standpoint, what is it that is it? What is it about the list of abilities? Is it that it gives you tangible things that you know your character can do? Is it just that feeling of you have lots of options that are kind of described, right? Because if I'm playing a fighter, and playing a fighter in the OD&D game, I don't have it. I mean, there's nothing on my sheet. I mean, there's a little bit now that I'm a paladin. My character's a paladin. Yeah, there's a couple more things, but really, there's nothing there, right? That's the fighter. It's just a blank sheet. So I have to interact with the world to do anything, and I think sometimes that can be hard for people to, especially if they're coming from a game. Like if you're coming from fifth edition, we're used to having all kinds of stuff, and then you come to like, oh, here's a fighter. It's like, where are my abilities? Like, your ability is to use any weapon and armor you want. That's your ability. That's your special. Um, you know, that can be kind of daunting, I guess. Let's see. Krister says, what I'm saying, the world is your button makes sense, but for some reason, which I cannot quite explain, I like having specific abilities. No, I hear you. I mean, look, it's good that you know what you like. Oftentimes we go fumbling around trying to know what we like, and then once we know what we like, we're good. Let's see. Krister says, I guess it's my like for structure too. I have buttons, and I get new buttons when I level up. My specific buttons give me a specific role, which only I can fulfill, etc. Yes. Yeah, and I think that's part of what is kind of good and bad about that style of game, right? Because I have this role and I'm kind of in it, but it also means you're sort of, I mean, not like, I mean, even OD&D kind of has roles, right? I mean, not super defined roles, but kind of, your fighter's supposed to be kind of up front. Your cleric's supposed to be sort of the second up front, presuming you don't have more fighters, and also be kind of that healer, savior, protector type. Your wizard, your let's just go pre-thief, and your wizard is there to kind of handle, uh, be that sort of filler of other things, and kind of handle situations, give you that kind of get out of jail free card. The kind of, it's the wild card factor. Like, oh, you're can't get through here. Aha, I have pass wall, and so we can get through. Or, oh, there's too many of them. Aha, I've got sleep. Things like that. Like that's kind of the wizard's like, haha, I got this special something, and that'll fix you up, kind of thing. But there's that trap too. But I think it happens more in that third edition kind of thing, where you really those roles become really, uh, really defined. Not necessarily limiting, but just you're kind of in it. It's almost like if you don't want to do the role, then don't be the thing. Like I could see being a fighter and be like, you know what, I'm going to go leather armor, and I'm going to be kind of a bow, a fighter. But so here's what I like, right? If I'm an old school fighter, I can go leather armor. If I've got good decks, then it might not even be terrible armor class wise. If I want to be I want to be light, I'm gonna be nimble. I'm gonna have my bow and my arrows, and I'm gonna be going to town. Right, that's great. And you can do that in every game. And of course, you get kind of third edition, and you can really customize the heck out of your archer. And they even had, you get your you go with those feats, obviously, and then those the different classes and the like arc. And I think that point was it a oh prestige classes like the arcane archer and things like that. But in say OD&D up until, I don't know when we would say it maybe flipped. I guess probably third. My second is not memory. Second edition memory is not is I can't really say with any authority because it's been a while since I've read second edition. I don't remember the nuance changes, but get the third edition, you go down that arcane archer path. You can't really go backwards. Like if I'm in OD&D fighter and I decide I want to go light and scouting and do all that, I can do that. And then guess what? I can come back to camp. I can put on my plate mail, get my shield and my sword, and I can go back to being that frontline guy. I'm not penalized for it. I can do both. If I want to do that, I want to be the archer guy for a while. Yeah, I can do that. So just pick up that and be that. And that might be the whole game. I might never put on the heavy armor and do that. But I'm flexible because if something has to happen, like we need you up front, pal, because we got nobody else. All right, and bring me my armor, and then you can go. In once you get to third and sort of beyond, because you're going down these feat trees and everything else. Once you get to like, aha, I'm the arcane archer. I'm everything I ever wanted, and yeah, you get some cool abilities that my OD&D fighter could never dream of having. But that OD&D fighter can put on another hat. Oh, you need heavy armor guy with a sword and a mace to break some skeleton bones. I can do it. Let me just give me a minute to switch clothes. That arcane archer is like, nah, I mean, I could, but it would be, you're gimping me. You would be gimped. And I don't know where the line is for when you get too far, where I just feel like you're trapping in a sense. It's not really a trap, and people are going down the roads they go down to. But I think that there's that part where I think you just hit that the the efficiency game or the power building game where that line you can't go back to anymore. Like there's probably a point playing in third edition where I could keep working my fighter and doing that stuff and then stop before I take some feat that would put me on a path or take that prestige class that would put me on a path that I can't back up from. Maybe there's a way to do that. Oh, you could play a fight, but if I'm doing it, it's super inefficient compared to the other ones, then I'm probably not going to. I like that about the older games. Like, no, you're that thing. And if you want to be a necromancer, Mr. Wizard, and just do necromancy spells, or be a pyromancer and just do pyromancy spells, that's great, but it's your choice. We're not penalizing you for it. We're not handing out little bonuses. You could do that. But then if you're doing pyromancy spells and suddenly you need a water spell, you could just go right back and do it. Like that limitation is your own. It's not like, nope, you've suddenly gone too far down the path and you've taken too many feats, and now you have this feat that says, all everything's fire and I can't do water anymore. Now you're gimped if you don't do it. Christopher says, a good point. That's another thing I like about having buttons. It allows me to formally, mechanically customize my character and enjoy that. Yeah, see, I'm not a big, I mean, that's just me. I'm not a big character generator guy. Not that I didn't love creating characters. I did. I just never got into the, I don't know, optimization sort of thing. I mean, obviously, I always want somebody to be good at their job, good at what they want to do, and if there was a way to be better, if I wanted to be, I always used to like to play these kind of nimble archer types, kind of rangery things. Not so much. I didn't really care about the animal companion stuff. I like the kind of light armored, running around with a bow and stuff. And if I can find out a way to do it better, yeah, sure. But at that point, I would have a guy I knew who was a three who was super big into the character generations for third edition. They would just make my character for me, or give me send me to the blog posts, or I could look at what to do, and I wouldn't do it myself. All right, let me see if I can do a couple of these before I got a jet. Gnarled tree, a blackened tree stump. It's been fun talking. I should go back and do third again. And what I always liked, I don't know if there's one of these for Pathfinder 2, but I always appreciated that. What was it called? It was like that Pathfinder 6, P6 or something, or L6. I don't think it was specifically Pathfinder. It might have applied to third 3.52, but it was just the idea of you just stop at level 6. I think it was level 6, that was kind of your end. And that was it. It was level 1 to level 6. And then you pretty much were done. You might have been able to get incremental things after that, but basically all your main mechanical stuff. So you never get to the part where you're becoming a super duper hero. For good or for ill. Some people really like that, and it is fun to play really powerful characters. But I think, especially when you get in that kind of third edition range, managing all that stuff becomes a lot. All right, so do I have any more I can do? Pool of Dog Worlds, yeah, gnarled tree, a blackened tree stump, a stand of pale tall, pale grasses. Clump of thorny brush. A gnarled tree, a blackened tree stump, a stand of tall, pale grasses, a clump of thorny brush, a stand of trees. I would have used that. Is there another word for a stand of trees? Is there something for that? There we go. What is another word for a group of trees? Oh, a grove, a thicket. Oh, a thicket. Copse. A thicket, a copse. A thicket, a copse. I use thicket. Definitely want to find some adjectives. All right, can I get one more before I call it a stream? A gnarled tree, a blackened tree stump, a stand of tall, pale grasses, a thicket of thorny brush, a copse of. I want to definitely put an adjective in there for trees, but I'm gonna have to think of that later. What else we got? What other kind of tree, brush? What do we have? Mosses seems too specific. Flower? Flower? What do we have? A stand, orchard, grove, small forest with trees. Yeah, I don't want. What's this? Compass? Hmm. Verdure. Oh, I like verdure. Scrub. Covert. What's a covert? Oh, no, they just mean covert. I thought there was a. What would you call a flowers? Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. Comps, let's see. A gnarled tree. So we got tree, things. So I got brush, got grass. A gnarled tree, a blackened tree stump, a stand of tall, pale grasses, a thicket of thorny brush, a copse of trees. Yeah, I don't know if yeah, garden would be one. What would you call it if it's wild? What words refer to a group of flowers? Um, Not a bouquet. Come on. Uh, Collective nouns for flowers. No, 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 no. Collective nouns. Grammar monster. Team, herd, pack. Yeah, that's not for flowers. Think a pack of flowers. A pack of flowers. Not a bouquet. Garden, yeah, cluster. Ah, cluster. Oh, you were going there. Yeah, flower. I'm trying to keep to like small things, but fragrant flowers. All right. A gnarled tree, a blackened tree stump, a stand of tall, pale grasses, a thicket of thorny brush, a copse of what could I use? A copse of Tops of trees, some kind of trees. Oh, patch. Yes, patch would work. Yep, I like cluster, but yes, patch would also work. All right, folks, I got a jet. I'm actually going to see a musical tonight and Juliet. So that should be I was gonna say a bear of laughs. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, but we're gonna check it out. So should be good. But I'll probably be back tomorrow on the main channel streaming, which you never know. We'll see. We'll see how things go. It might be here and there and everywhere. Until then, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye now.